Okay, so I guess I'll just cover, both halves of my mission real quick. So I served in El Salvador, but I also I served 13 months in El Salvador, in Santa Ana. And then I actually ended up getting sick. I was sick for quite a while in the mission, but I still was working every day. But it got to the point that my mission president was like, okay, Hermana Clark, like, we've talked to the central doctor, we've talked to your parents, like, if you don't go home, you're gonna die. And I don't know if this is really loud, but I told my mission president, I was like, President, I don't want to go home. Like, if I go home, it's going to be in a casket. Like, I've been working every day. I know that the Lord will bless me. That was the stubborn side of me talking. But I was like, the Lord will bless me if I keep on working. And then he told me, he said he would talk to my parents and see if I was feeling better in a few days. And that was on I think it was on a Wednesday or Thursday. And then Friday morning, he called me up and he said, okay, Sister Clark, like, I've called your parents. Again, I've talked to the central doctor, and you have to go home. You have to get better because this isn't getting better. And that was the hardest, one of the hardest times of my life. I cried a lot. As soon as I went outside, stepped out of the door every day, I was out working. I was like, I don't care if I'm sick, like, I need to work, I need to do what I was sent here to do. But as soon as I stepped in the door after working all day, I was crying. I would wake up in the middle of the night and cry because I didn't want to leave. And that was really hard. But when I got home, I was home for 2 months recuperating, and then I finally decided I wanted to go back out and finish my mission. So I talked to my stake president, they sent in some papers, and I was called to the Scottsdale, Arizona mission. And so I flew out, again, it was like a Friday that they told me I was going to Arizona, and then I flew out on a Monday, I think, and I flew out to Scottsdale, but they put me in the eastern half of Phoenix in Camelback, so I was able to be in a Spanish branch and, again, work with the Latinos there. And that was really interesting because here I was coming from a mission where we spoke a lot of slang, and I was thinking that I could use a lot of that with Mexican Spanish, which they don't call it Mexican Spanish, they call it, I can't remember what they call it. Anyway, so the Spanish in El Salvador is very different from Mexican Spanish, the Spanish they use in Mexico. And that was really interesting because when I tried to talk to the members, they were really surprised at how much I knew and how fluent I was, because I already had exposure to another culture for so long. But I mean, there were times when I would be talking to them and they would stop and they would be like, "What are you saying?" Like, there were times when they were so shocked, and it was because a lot of the words that is okay in El Salvador is not okay in Mexico. You just can't use those words because either it was offensive or it just didn't mean the same thing. So that was a struggle going to Arizona because I had to change. I had to learn the slang that Mexicans use and try to discourage using the slang I learned in El Salvador, and that was kind of interesting. But Arizona was absolutely wonderful. I loved it. I worked in a lot of trailer parks. The branch that I worked with, they had a pretty good, decent size, and I want to say at least half was active. I mean, half of them would come regularly. Again, there was a lot of less active. But it was a beautiful area. I was there from September to March, and so the weather was perfect. And our mission got to help out with the Christmas lights for the Mesa Temple, and that was fun. The Mesa Christmas lights is a really fun activity, so, and there's just a lot of history behind that, and so it's a good tradition, and as missionaries we got to help out with that. yeah, I loved both missions. It was interesting because the first thing when I sat down into my mission president in Arizona, he was like, okay, Sister Clark, like this mission is struggling as far as the Spanish part of the mission goes. Can you do some investigating, from another perspective, see what you can do to help change it? And I did my best. I hope give a PowerPoint presentation to all the Spanish missionaries in that mission. And basically when it comes down to it, we just needed to love the people more, focus more on the people.